In the twilight of our years, when the world seems to spin ever faster and the drumbeat of consumption grows ever louder, there exists a gentler path, one that beckons us with the promise of peace and contentment. We call it the slow life. I've spent decades watching our world transform, just as you have. The constant rush, the endless notifications, the perpetual pressure to buy, to own, to accumulate, it can wear on the soul. But here's what I've learned, and what I want to share with you today. There's profound wisdom in choosing to step away from this whirlwind, especially as we enter our golden years. This isn't just about slowing down, it's about reclaiming the art of living. It's about rediscovering the kind of contentment that money can't buy and advertisers can't sell. And believe me, after watching countless friends and clients find their way to this path, I can tell you the rewards are worth every step. As the years have gently silvered our hair and deepened the laugh lines around our eyes, many of us have come to a profound realization: the materialism that once seemed so important has lost its luster. Remember how society once told us that success was measured by the car in our driveway or the size of our home? Those messages still echo around us, but they don't resonate quite the same way anymore. I've sat with countless friends over cups of steaming coffee, sharing stories about how our perspectives have shifted. One dear friend, Patricia, recently told me how she used to spend weekends at the mall, hunting for the next must-have item. Now, she said, with a wisdom that comes only from years of living, I find more joy in watching my grandchildren play in the backyard than I ever found in any store. The truth is, we've lived long enough to see through the illusion that happiness comes wrapped in shopping bags. We've accumulated enough things to know that they don't fill the spaces in our hearts. Instead, we've discovered that true richness lies in moments shared, in stories told, in the quiet pleasure of a sunrise viewed from a familiar porch. Let me share a story that changed my entire perspective on possessions. 10 years ago, I made a decision that my friends thought was crazy. I sold my sprawling suburban home and moved onto a narrowboat. Picture it, 50 feet long and barely 7 feet wide, floating gently on the canal. How will you fit your life into that tiny space? They asked, their voices filled with concern. I still remember standing in my old house, surrounded by 30 years of accumulated treasures. Each closet bulged with clothes I hadn't worn in years. Kitchen drawers overflowed with gadgets I'd forgotten I owned. 5 coffee makers, can you believe it? I had to laugh at myself. How had I convinced myself I needed 5 different ways to make coffee? The process of downsizing wasn't just about deciding what to keep or throw away. It became a journey of self-discovery. Each item I picked up asked me a simple question: do I truly need this? At first, letting go felt impossible, like trying to choose which memories to keep. But then something magical happened. With each box I donated, each item I sold, I felt lighter. It wasn't just my home that was being decluttered, it was my soul. Now, living in my cozy narrowboat, I've discovered a profound truth: the less I own, the more I seem to have. My small space has become a sanctuary of peace, filled only with things that truly matter. And those 5 coffee makers? I kept one, the simplest one, and I've never made better coffee in my life. Now, let me be clear, I'm not suggesting we should reject the modern world entirely. After all, I appreciate the convenience of ordering groceries online when my arthritis acts up, and I'm thankful for the technology that lets me video chat with my grandchildren across the country. Capitalism, when balanced, can create wonderful things that make our lives easier. Think of it like a garden. A well-tended garden needs good tools: a sturdy spade, reliable pruning shears, a decent watering can. I'm happy to pay a fair price for these tools because they serve a genuine purpose. The problem isn't in owning things that truly serve us, it's in getting caught up in the endless cycle of wanting more, newer, bigger. I've watched friends chase the latest trends, upgrading perfectly good phones because advertising convinced them they needed the newest model. I've seen neighbors replace furniture not because it was worn out, but because it wasn't in style anymore. At our age, we've lived through enough trends to know they're like waves on the shore, endless and ultimately meaningless. The wisdom of our years has taught us that true value isn't in the price tag. It's in the morning light streaming through your window, in the comfortable chair that knows the shape of your body, in the well-worn tools that have helped you create beautiful things. These are the possessions worth having, the ones that serve life rather than drain it. Living simply in today's world is like rowing upstream. It takes intention, strength, and a clear sense of direction. Most people around us are caught in the current of constant activity, endless shopping, and perpetual busyness. But here's what I've learned: there's profound peace in choosing a different path. Recently, I had tea with my friend Martha, an elegant woman in her 70s who has mastered the art of simple living. "People think I'm missing out," she told me with a gentle smile, "but I've never felt more present in my life." Martha spends her mornings tending to her small garden, afternoons reading or crafting, and evenings watching the sunset from her porch. No expensive entertainment, no elaborate plans, just pure, uncluttered joy. When you choose this path, you might feel like a salmon swimming upstream at first. Your children might not understand why you don't want the latest smart home devices. Friends might question why you prefer quiet afternoons at home over shopping trips to the mall. But here's the beautiful truth: this swimming upstream builds strength. It cultivates a peaceful certainty about who you are and what truly matters. I've found that the simple life reveals treasures that were always there but hidden beneath layers of busyness, the way sunlight creates patterns on your kitchen floor, the satisfaction of drinking water from your favorite cup, the joy of watching birds build their nests in spring. These aren't just moments, they're glimpses of what life is truly meant to be. As the years have softened our steps and silvered our hair, something remarkable happens. We begin to find extraordinary beauty in ordinary moments. The grand adventures and expensive thrills that once seemed so essential fade in comparison to life's simple pleasures. Last week, I watched my friend David, a retired teacher of 75, spend an entire morning simply observing the birds at his feeder. "You know," he said, his eyes twinkling, "I used to rush past all this, always heading somewhere important. Now I realize this is the important stuff." He knows each bird by its song, each squirrel by its habits. His wealth isn't in his bank account, it's in the rich tapestry of daily observations and quiet joys. These treasures are everywhere, waiting to be noticed: the perfect warmth of sunlight on your face during a morning walk, the satisfying clink of spoon against cup as you stir your tea, the soft purr of a cat curled in your lap, the way your favorite chair welcomes you like an old friend. These moments cost nothing, yet they're priceless. I've learned to create rituals around these simple pleasures. Every morning, I take my coffee to the window and watch the world wake up. Sometimes it's raining, sometimes the sun paints the sky in spectacular colors, sometimes it's just quiet and gray, but it's always special because I'm fully present for it. These aren't just moments passing by, they're the very essence of a life well lived. Let's talk honestly about something we all face: the constant pull of consumerism. Even after decades of life experience, those carefully crafted advertisements and limited time offers can still tug at our hearts. I know because I feel it too. Just last week, I caught myself browsing online, filling a virtual shopping cart with things I didn't need, chasing that momentary thrill of acquisition. My friend Eleanor, a wise woman of 72, shared a wonderful insight over coffee recently. "Every time I feel the urge to buy something new," she told me, her eyes crinkling with warmth, "I wait 3 days. If I still want it after 3 days, I consider it. But you know what? 9 times out of 10, I've forgotten about it completely. Her simple rule has saved her not just money, but the cluttered stress that comes with unnecessary purchases. The truth is, resisting consumerism isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. Each time we say no to an unnecessary purchase, we're saying yes to something far more valuable: peace of mind, clear spaces, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing we have enough. It's like clearing weeds from a garden. At first it seems endless, but gradually, the space becomes more beautiful, more intentional. I've learned to find joy in what I already have. That old sweater that's served me faithfully for years? It's not just a piece of clothing, it's a trusted companion with stories to tell. The simple dishes I've eaten from for decades? They carry the memories of countless family meals, celebrations, and quiet morning coffees. When we step away from the endless cycle of buying and acquiring, something magical happens. We discover time, rich, uncluttered time that begs to be filled with meaning. It's like finding a blank canvas waiting for the first stroke of paint, or an empty garden bed ready for planting. I remember when Sarah, my neighbor of 15 years, retired from her busy career in banking. At first, she confided, I tried to fill the void with shopping. But no matter how much I bought, the emptiness remained. Then she discovered watercolor painting. Now, her mornings are spent by the window, brush in hand, capturing the play of light on her garden flowers. I've never felt more fulfilled, she tells me, her eyes bright with purpose. The beautiful truth is that meaningful activities don't require expensive equipment or fancy memberships. They ask only for our attention, our patience, and our willingness to learn. Whether it's tending a small herb garden, learning to play the guitar that's been gathering dust in the corner, or finally writing down those family stories you've been carrying in your heart, these activities nourish our souls in ways that shopping never could. I've seen this transformation in my own life. The hours I once spent browsing stores or scrolling through online shopping sites are now devoted to crafting handmade gifts for my grandchildren, volunteering at our local library, and teaching others the art of bread making. Each activity brings not just satisfaction, but connection with others, with ourselves, with the simple rhythm of meaningful work. Living differently in a world obsessed with more isn't always easy. I won't sugarcoat this truth for you. When you choose a simpler path, you'll face raised eyebrows and questioning looks. Sometimes these come from the places closest to our hearts: our children, old friends, even our own ingrained habits. My dear friend Thomas, a retired professor now in his late 70s, often shares his experience with me. When I first started declining invitations to expensive dinners and suggesting picnics in the park instead, some friends thought I was having financial troubles, he chuckles. They couldn't understand that I simply preferred the peace of nature to noisy restaurants. But you know what? The ones who matter stuck around, and our conversations under the trees are deeper than they ever were over fancy meals. The challenges aren't just external. There's an internal struggle too, the voice that whispers, maybe you're missing out, or what will people think? I've learned to greet these thoughts like old acquaintances. I acknowledge them, but I don't let them stay for tea. The peace that comes from living authentically far outweighs any momentary doubts. Remember, choosing a simpler life doesn't mean choosing isolation. It means being intentional about how you spend your time and energy. Some relationships might fade, yes, but others will deepen. You'll find your tribe, people who understand that the best conversations happen over home-brewed coffee, and that true friendship doesn't require expensive outings or constant activity. There's a beautiful irony in choosing a simpler life. The less you need, the richer you become. Not just in terms of money saved, though that's certainly true, but in the profound wealth of contentment. It's a different kind of financial freedom, one that comes from wanting less rather than having more. I think of my friend Grace, who lives contentedly in a small apartment filled with sunlight and plants. People are always asking me why I don't upgrade to a bigger place, she told me during one of our afternoon teas. They don't understand that this space gives me something more valuable than square footage. It gives me freedom from worry. My modest expenses mean I can sleep peacefully at night, knowing I'm well within my means. The math is simple, but the impact is profound. When you step off the consumption treadmill, your financial needs naturally decrease. That pension or social security check stretches further. The money you might have spent on keeping up appearances can instead be used for what truly matters, perhaps helping a grandchild through college, supporting causes you believe in, or simply building a cushion of security for your later years. But the real treasure isn't in the money saved, it's in the stress released. When your happiness doesn't depend on buying the newest this or the latest that, you free yourself from the constant pressure of keeping up. You discover that the best things in life truly are free: the laughter of friends, the warmth of sunshine, the satisfaction of a good book read in a comfortable chair. Looking back over the tapestry of life at this stage brings a special kind of wisdom. Like watching the sun set over familiar hills, reflection becomes richer, deeper, more meaningful. Now, in my 8th decade, I find myself pondering not the things I bought, but the moments that made my heart sing. Just yesterday, I sat with my old friend Robert on his porch, watching autumn leaves dance in the breeze. "You know what I regret?" he said, his voice soft with reflection. "Not the cars I didn't buy or the vacations I didn't take. I regret the times I was too busy chasing things to notice the beauty right in front of me." We sat in comfortable silence after that, two old friends understanding that sometimes the most profound truths need no words. The beauty of reaching this stage in life is the clarity it brings. The endless wanting, the constant striving for more, it all falls away like autumn leaves, revealing the strong, bare branches of what truly matters. The weekend afternoons spent teaching my granddaughter to bake bread, the quiet mornings watching birds at the feeder, the long walks with dear friends where conversation flows like a gentle stream, these are the real treasures of my life. What surprises me most is how the mistakes I thought I was making, choosing a smaller home, driving an older car, being content with less, turned out to be the wisest decisions of all. They gave me something money can't buy: the freedom to live authentically, to spend time on what truly matters, to breathe deeply and sleep peacefully. As we age, thoughts naturally turn to what we'll leave behind. Not just the material possessions, but the deeper legacy, the values, wisdom, and life lessons we hope will echo through generations. I've come to understand that the greatest inheritance we can leave isn't in our bank accounts, but in the way we've chosen to live. My friend Margaret, a retired teacher, shared something profound with me recently. "I used to worry about leaving enough money for my children," she said, tending to her small vegetable garden. "But now I realize the best thing I can leave them is the example of a life well lived, one that values relationships over possessions, experiences over things, and peace over prosperity." This simpler way of living becomes a powerful legacy in itself. When our grandchildren visit and see how content we are with less, when they experience the joy of a home filled with love rather than stuff, when they witness the peace that comes from living within our means, these are lessons more valuable than any material inheritance. I think of it as planting seeds for future generations. Every time we choose contentment over consumption, every time we find joy in simple pleasures, every time we demonstrate that happiness doesn't come from a store, we're nurturing those seeds. And like all good gardeners, we may not see all the fruits of our labor, but we can trust that what we're planting will grow into something beautiful.